Hello, my name is Ruth Nelson, and welcome to this week's Master Coaches Wednesday Weekly Buzz and our after show, Buzz Reaction, both hosted by John Foreman. Our most recent guests were from the ACC, representing the 3 designated pods based on their location. The coaches provided us an overview of how they created the pods, what their fall competition schedule was, and how they will approach the spring NCAA Division I championship, along with how they have adapted to the protocol needed during COVID-19. Newsflash, many high schools now seasons are coming to an end, but one thing that stands out is high schools are learning how to live stream their matches. Stay current on high school news, go to nfhs.org, and for upcoming junior club events and education, go to jvavolleyball.org. Check out Coaches Insider this week as they will discuss how social media and live streaming events have provided schools a challenge, but a great balance during COVID. Get the most recent updates on the 4 conferences that are playing this fall. Head over to Volleyball Mag and listen to Mondays with Mick. Did you know that Brian Gimolero coached 32 years with over 800 wins, Bob Bertucci, 41 years with over 900 wins, and Mick Haley, 41 years with over 1,300 wins. All will be asking our guests from the Big 12 how the fall season schedule was planned and what adjustments they are making due to COVID. First, let's head over to Austin, Texas, where former Olympic coach Mick Haley will introduce our guest today. Mick?
Thank you, Ruth. But did you know that Ruth Nelson coached 16 years with 500 plus wins at 3 different Division I schools, was a player on our national team and an assistant coach on our national team, and majored in economics? Thanks, Ruth, for bringing us all that information. And today, we are so honored to have 3 of the best coaches in the Big 12 with us. Christy Johnson-Lynch, Iowa State head coach, Ryan McGuyre, Baylor head coach, and Jerritt Elliott from the University of Texas head coach. All of these coaches are missing valuable practice time to be here. So we're going to move right into this and start asking our questions. So coaches, thank you for being with us. And I'm going to go with the first question right now, and I'm going to direct it, I think, to Christy. Christy, can you hear me?
Yep, I can. Can you hear me?
Okay, great. Thanks for being on.
Yeah,
I'm going to ask you, how did the Big 12 arrive at a 16-match fall schedule? And will the team with the most wins represent the Big 12 and the automatic berth in the NC2A tournament this spring?
Well, 16 is our full schedule. You know, that's what we would normally be playing. And so I think the consensus was that if we felt like we could play and we could do it safely, that we should play and give it a try and see what happens. And I think there's so much unknown about the spring. If teams will play, how much will they play? The NCAA tournament. So I think the general feeling between administration and coaches was, if we can do this, let's do it. And so far, so good. You know, so far we're 3 weekends in, and we're doing pretty well. And yeah, the team with the most wins will advance to the NCAA Spring Championship. We'll play in that, and we're eligible for that. Our AQ is eligible for that, and hopefully a couple more Big 12 teams will get in that as well.
Okay, thank you. Ryan, after leading your team to a first Final Four appearance for the Baylor volleyball program this last fall, how will you attempt to repeat again this year, and what newcomers are we going to see from your program?
Well, I'm excited that in the Big 12 we get to be playing, and probably practice is the only normal feeling part of the day as we adjust to everything. But we'll have to figure out how to peak in April. Normally it's train and peak in December, so we got to figure out how to be good but also peak in April. But Lauren Harrison's a transfer from North Carolina, has just looked really, really good for us. She's like a young version of Yassiana Presley. And Chanel moving over in the libero position for us has done good. And we got some redshirt freshmen coming in DS, and then two transfer middles in Lauren Harrison and Dress-Up Parise. So we're having fun putting those pieces together and using matches to do it.
Great, Ryan. Thank you. And Jerritt, this is an interesting question for everybody across the country, and I'm really interested to see how you guys at Texas are handling this. But the NCAA rules allow I believe I'm correct, 132 days of practice and playing time for your season. But because your seasons are now going over 2 semesters, it looks like, how do you handle that this fall, and how many matches can you possibly play in the spring with this kind of limitation?
Well, it's been obviously interesting for all of our coaches in the Big 12. It's the first time that we've coached in this situation and gone through all the day-to-day rituals of organization for future, and that's been the hard part about it all. Our conference has great coaches. One of the great things I like about our conference is we all get along and we have a lot of respect for each other. So it's been really good in terms of working with them, in terms of how to get these questions answered. We have all the questions, we just don't have the answers right now. We were on a call on Monday. We think we put in a waiver, I think, along with the ACC and the SEC, because this 132-day came out a few weeks after we started. And I think based on us getting back in the gym, we all didn't go very hard because we were getting our players acclimated back into, just being able to play volleyball full time and not risking any injuries. So we're waiting to hear kind of how that plays out. We are fortunate because our bye is at the end of the season, so we actually gain a week. We have 47 play dates, 47 days left of our 132. The way it looks right now is that, most of our teams will not be checking in till probably late January. I know that we're not going to be allowed to come back until school starts, and I think we'll shoot for about March 1st as our first match. So we'll get about 4 or 5 weeks in before we have to play. But the question is who we play. No conference has decided how they're doing this yet. We've talked to a lot of other conferences, and we're just kind of waiting to hear. So, and then which conferences are following the protocols for us to be able to play, because one of the great things that the Big 12 has done is our protocols are really good, and they've been really tight, and the reason that we've been able to stay healthy so far.
Okay, well, thank you, Jerritt. That was quite informative. Bob, you've got some questions?
Yeah, I want to start with Ryan. Ryan, how has COVID-19 affected your team's training?
It's affected it in a lot of ways, and for us, our culture is something we're always trying to protect in the community. So, we got to travel different. We need to do our individual sessions different. The film in groups and film not in as a whole at limited times. It really has affected it, but it's also forced us to be more creative and find new ways to connect. And so we're doing that and just being innovative with all the technology we're having and getting out there. And I think the hardest part has been communicating through masks while you're training and playing and practicing.
Right. And Jerritt, you talked about, a number of different protocols. Why don't you kind of walk us through a little bit about the protocols, the testing, different venues you might be playing in?
Yeah, so each obviously we all play in different states, so there's different protocols for each state that we've had to follow, and those things change on a daily basis. Some teams are having fans, or we're not having fans, and then now we're allowed to have that. But the biggest thing for the protocol is just the organization of all, how we're checking into our facilities. We are having mandatory 3 times a week testing for what we're doing. We're testing, for instance, we're going to West Virginia. We test at 11 o'clock in the morning, and then we have to sit in our gym for 2 hours to wait that we get the clearance that we are all past our testing. As of yesterday, we got some monitors that are attached to like wristbands that go on their ankles, so we know exactly the tracing. If we get close to anybody for too long a period of time, those monitors are going off and buzzing. So we're just doing a lot of contact tracing, prevention, and most importantly, we're talking to our players about trying to be smart and making sense of this all, because that's the biggest challenge, as you guys know as coaches, is managing the players. And they're young and they want to do things that are fun, and this is very difficult for them to get to the gym and back home and back to the dorms and be responsible in that sense. And they've done a nice job across the board in our conference, but I think that's probably where our coaches lose the most sleep.
Wow.
Well, hopefully, this hasn't happened yet, but if you do this testing and all of a sudden, 3 of your starting players, test positive, how are you dealing with cancellations? Has any matches been canceled yet?
Gosh, that's a good question. I don't think any matches have been canceled yet. But we have a protocol that we worked out with our coaches in terms of the minimum number of players that we have to have on our roster and the minimum number of players at certain positions. There was two factors on that. We wanted to make sure that we were able to put a team that was healthy on the floor, but also we didn't want to get into risking injury for the other opponents. And for example, if we had 2 or 3 outside hitters that went down and then you had to throw your liberos or your DSs in there, or non-setter setting, it would be, then you're risking injury, and that's not what you're playing this for. So we agreed as coaches that we would try to do the best job we can to put our full teams together, make it as competitive as possible. And then if we're not able to do that, then the ADs will sit down and talk with one another to make sure that we're following the right protocol.
Right. Christy, how are these, different protocols that either university put into effect or the conferences put into effect, how's that affected your team practices or your communication with the players?
Yeah, I think a lot what the other coaches just said. If you come to practice, I don't think it would look very different, except that we have masks on and we're trying to social distance. But other than that, I feel like practice is practice. A lot of it is what we try to do off the court, how we're communicating, how we're meeting. A lot of things are virtual now. We try not to gather a lot of people in one small room. We do everything we can to avoid that. So all of our meetings, our film sessions, those are done mostly virtual. But I think when we practice, that part of the day is kind of normal, aside from that adjustment period when we had to bring them in and get them back slowly and adjust to the masks. Now I feel like practice is kind of the most normal part of the day.
So, so when you're doing individual meetings or something like that, they're mostly all virtual at this point. You're not doing, things in your office with 1 or 2 players or anything like that.
We'll do a little of that, but not much. If you're going to meet with someone for 20 minutes, we'd prefer you do it, virtually. We'll have some quick meetings, or we'll just sit in the arena where there's a lot of space that we can kind of spread out, put it on a big screen. We'll review film that way a little bit. But we've really reduced our kind of, small room gatherings for sure.
Okay. And how about, why did conference go and decide to travel the whole conference? I mean, Jerritt just talked about, flying up to West Virginia. Most of the other conferences seem like they're keeping it more geographical.
I think that's something we looked at. We looked at pods, we looked at a couple options. Part is the challenge of our conference, where people are located, as we went through it, we thought if we can do this safely and we can play everybody, let's go ahead and do that. And fortunately, a lot of our teams can either bus or charter fly to matches, so that helps keep our kind of bubble intact. And we just felt like we could do this. We could do this and play everybody twice and be safe about it. So I think that's kind of where we came down.
That's great, Christy. Thank you.
Hi, Christy. This is Brian. How are you?
I'm good, thanks.
Good. I was thinking about something when you were talking about players staying socially distanced. I was wondering, I've always had a middle blocker who can't get outside. Does a middle blocker ever look at you and say, the reason I can't get outside is I'm trying to stay socially distanced now?
It's funny you say that, because the other day in practice, my setter was supposed to be behind a passer and she just all of a sudden she was right there by the net, and I said, "You're out of rotation. What are you doing?" And she, I'm just social distancing here. All right.
Yeah, I was too close before. Yeah. When you look at the spring, what are you trying to accomplish with your scheduling? What are you trying to get out of it? Because I know the conference is over, so what are you looking for? What is the school going to let you do?
I assume that's to me.
Yeah, it's to you.
I'll
I'm
answer
sorry.
the best I can.
No, you're not getting off just with the distance one.
I don't think we know yet. I think it will depend on where you're at after the fall. If you're a team that's in the mix, maybe you're an AQ or you're in the mix for the NCAA tournament, you're probably going to try to train and play as much as you possibly can. and try to find teams to compete against. That's going to be a real challenge for us, for sure. If you're a team that's not in the mix at all for the NCAAs, you might just take it as a normal spring where maybe you're training and competing like you would in a typical spring. I think it's going to be a challenge for us because there's going to be some teams in the Big 12 that might be trying to play their way into the tournament. So they're going to have to try to find teams that will help them do that. And but you don't want to play yourself out of the tournament either. So it's going to be really interesting to see who we can play, who's willing to play. Can we schedule in a way that will give the Big 12 the most opportunities to play in the NCAA tournament?
Yeah, are other coaches checking with each other now? Are they communicating about spring schedule?
I think we're getting there. I think a lot of conferences still don't know what they're going to do. They don't know if they'll play non-conference or not. So I think if those questions get answered, that'll all get sorted out. Okay.
Jerritt, you mentioned that you're going to start pretty late in the springtime. When is your season ending? How do you look at it? When is the end of season? How big a gap is that going to be?
Well, it's a big gap right now. We're done 2 weeks before Thanksgiving.
Wow.
And so, we have to give them at least a week off after that, and then it's Thanksgiving. So we'll give them that time to go home. And then hopefully, we're still waiting to hear from our department if they'll be able to come back for 3 weeks and train it. Just because we end December 2nd with us full time, but if the captains want to stay here and do lifting, that is something we're concerned about, because one of the biggest challenges that we faced coming back was there was so much time off, and they weren't in a conditioning program. They were working out and doing stuff at home, but they didn't have the weight. So the volume of which they had to jump and get back was a very big concern of ours. So we really we worked with our sport and science department. We're kind of monitoring everything on a daily basis, but we worked in really slow, and I think we're going to have to do the same thing again when we come back in January. That start off with probably hour practices, some conditioning and lifting, and then work our way up, and then also being able to get that workload in there so that we can play matches back to back, because that's been our biggest challenge so far. Is you can practice hard, but there's nothing for replicating 2 matches at back-to-back nights with a short term of getting your kids in conditioning. So I think all of our coaches in our conference are probably feeling that, and so it's been our biggest challenge for our staff, at least.
Well, that is challenging. I don't know how you're going to cycle your team up and stay healthy. I mean, this is going to be a different year than anybody's ever seen before. Ryan, given there's 48 teams in the tournament, I guess that's the best anybody can do, but it's down from 64. And so there's going to be fewer at-large teams. What are you guys looking at as a conference? How many do you think you can get in? And again, with you, how do you think you'll schedule in the springtime, given there's only 48 teams?
Well, Jerritt mentioned it earlier. I think we have all the right questions. We just don't have any of the right answers. So, for starters, I'm not sure we know what the selection criteria is going to be based off of. Traditionally you could go RPI and you schedule for RPI and you know exactly what you're trying to do. And so are you playing for a seed? How's the brackets going to look? Are they going to be regionalized? I'd love to play Christy and Jerritt plenty of times and sharpen each other up, but not if they're going to have us play each other in the first round of the tournament coming forward. Yeah. So again, those are some of the questions we're looking at. And then for us, we got to balance it with the basketball schedule also and moving things around. So again, we're talking ACC and SEC and some of those other schools, but they're not sure what they're doing yet either. And are they going to play non-conference, and how can we do that? So there's an ideal thing that I'd love to try and do and make happen, but until we get some of those answers, I'm not sure anybody can really move forward. And that's a big reason why we're playing our 16 games now, because we weren't sure if there would even be a tournament. So we'd rather have a full season than hit January and then there be no volleyball at all.
How many large teams did the conference have last year?
What did we have last year? Just...
So remember?
You guys remember?
And
4, wasn't it?
that's around
4, I'm not sure.
4?
4 or 5.
Oklahoma, we had 4. Oklahoma, in Iowa State.
Yeah, so, that could be down this year. So it's going to be really, really interesting for all the conferences. By the way, Ryan, I liked what you said about it's difficult to communicate with your players having a mask on. I think a lot of my players would rather have me have a mask on when I was talking to them, So, but anyway, I'm going to turn this over to Ruth. She'll make this much more professional.
Oh,
Ryan, can I add to that? The NCAA
Yeah.
I think there's some interesting things to think about the tournament. The NCAA has furloughed everybody but 25% of their NCAA championship staff, and they're trying to have 90 sports having an NCAA championship in a 1 month period. You can look at Christy's kind of athletic program where they got wrestling and men's and women's basketball and trying to be able to facilitate all these sports in there. And then you look at California where they're not even able to practice or get on the court yet. There's so many questions still to be answered that, it's not 100% yet that the NCAA tournament is going to happen come April.
Well, in California, still, we can't have more than 50 people in one indoor event right now. So I don't know how big are the benches going to be, and how do we have referees and lines people? I mean, it's 50
okay,
is a small
Brian, you
number.
said you weren't going to ask difficult questions. You guys are not going to nudge me out of my time.
Oh, I'm sorry, Ruth.
Christy,
I know better.
Jerritt, and Ryan, you don't realize every show they push it and I get 30 seconds to ask the questions. And these to me are significant questions. Christy, for you, since the NCAA dead period has been extended to January, how has this affected your recruiting process in a positive or a challenging way?
Well, recruiting never stops. It doesn't matter if COVID or not, it never stops. So we've had to just find a different way to do it. Lots of phone calls. I think lots of Zooms. I think the problem is that we've been able to really get to know recruits better and their families. I've spent a lot more time getting to know them, taking time in the process, trying to watch film, get film as much as we can since we cannot go out and see them live.
Right.
So, I think we've had to just be innovative and find a way. And you still see players, prospects committing without meeting coaches, without meeting players. It's still happening. I think it's slowed down, but it's still going on. So we keep moving forward until we can get out again and meet them in person.
Okay, that sounds great. I see Jerritt left because he doesn't want my question, so I'll go to Ryan next.
I'm here.
Okay, I'm going to Ryan anyhow. Ryan, if the NCAA lifts the dead period in January, will you be out recruiting while you're preparing for the NCAA championship in April?
You wanted concise answers, and the answer is yes. No, we'll definitely be doing that. It's, we miss seeing them live. It's just so important to be in the gym and see how they're training. Again, we're back to what is it going to look like? Are we going to high school gyms or club gyms?
Yep.
What events are still going to be hosted? Which ones are being moved? So I know all of us as coaches, Big 12, we'd love to get back out there and do that. And we're talking about it. Maybe we schedule more midweek games if we can get these matches in the spring. But we also, trying to navigate when those dates are and who's playing high school and who's playing club and what that looks like.
Right. Well, you won't have to worry too much about high school because there's only 14 high schools that'll be playing during springtime. So if you're in those particular states, don't worry about Texas, Jerritt. They've been playing the whole time, right? It didn't matter about COVID or not. All right, Jerritt, now I'm going to you. The big question, NIL, name, image, and likeness. How will you approach this in recruiting? And will your players be allowed to have their own products if they are in conflict with your athletic department?
Well, first of all, this is going to be a great opportunity for a lot of athletes.
Okay.
But when they do this, they're not going to be able to use the brand name of Texas or any of the logos when they do this. So the stuff that they're going to be doing is have to be on their own. And I think there's going to be a small market for certain players. I think in the women's game, I think you'll see they'll get a lot of gifts like beauty products and those type of things. But our department has been working on this for quite some time. They just a few months ago released that we created something called Leverage, which has huge branding implications for local, regional, national, with our TV coverage and our brands that we're associated with. Obviously, there's going to be some opportunities for these young ladies, but we've been working with them already with our social media people to teach them how to create a brand and going through those exercises and how do they market themselves and how do they do it in a way that they can really benefit for themselves. So it'll be interesting to see. The biggest part I'm concerned about is just the time management, because if you get an athlete that has a lot of these star qualities and you get a lot of sponsorships behind you, they're going to want your time. And so
Yep.
with it's already very limited in terms of what you can do as a coach. People don't realize how little time these college athletes have. So just another thing that we got to manage in those times and keep it organized for them.
Yeah. All right, Mick, well, I'm back to you to close out. And thank you, three, for being part of today's show. And Mick will kind of close out and talk a little bit about next week.
Yeah, coaches, it's been really a pleasure watching the television matches so far. There have been some interesting things, and actually you get to actually do some coaching, because playing back-to-back like that, you change things the next night. If you weren't successful the first night, and there's been some one-on-one splits, it looks like there's some coaching going on in the conference, and it's fun to watch these on TV. At least I get to see them on TV. And Jerritt, I do like the Irwin Center because of you can sit there and be 10 feet away from everybody and still get to see the match. And I got my season tickets in the end zone, so that was fun. I get to watch from the back part. So,
And you can have a beer too. That's
yeah,
pretty good.
I haven't tried that one yet. I have to go through my face mask and my mask to get to that. So that would be difficult. But thanks, coaches, for being on. Next week, we have a great show because we're going to expand on this NIL concept. We know that athletes may be able to make big bucks while playing for the university. The NIL rules are confusing because we have the NC2A posting some rules. We have Congress getting ready to write their own rules. And then we have individual states that are coming up with their own laws. I mean, this will drive a coach crazy if you just have one set of these rules, let alone three sets. And keeping them focused on trying to win and that sort of thing, or going to class instead of making money would be very interesting. One of the questions we'll find out is in asking the coaches next week that are coming on, really, will women's volleyball be able to demand these kinds of things? And we've got some interesting coaches coming on. John Cook from Nebraska, who's already been outspoken about recruiting using NIL, will be on, along with Joe Segula, who's at the University of North Carolina. In his university has signed a contract with a marketing firm. They're going to take a different approach to this. So both of these will be on next week. We hope to have a third coach. Really haven't heard back from her yet to be on. So we're really excited, Ruth. And I would throw one other thing, Ruth. I've got to one-up you on this.
Okay.
I just got a news flash. The 2023 national championships are going to be held at South Florida in Tampa. Now that's a rumor, but it's out there.
Oh, yeah. All right. We're ready to go on. For you guys, you can hang around and listen to our marketing, or you're more than welcome to go back to practice. But all of us, thank you very much for coming on.
Yeah, thank you, you guys. Thank you.
Thanks very much, you guys.
You guys were
Thank
great.
you for having us.
Thanks.
All right.
Jerritt.
Bye-bye.
Fall Master Coaches virtual clinics are now available for you, your team, or your coaches. Please head over to our Instagram account, VD Master Coaches, click on our bio, and click on the virtual clinic link, or you may scan our QR code that will take you directly to all of our information. A special shout out to our partners, Baden Sports and SNA Sports. And our #1 follower is Todos Somos Volleyball Coaches with Marco, Maria, and Christian, who are supporting our Master Coaches Weekly Buzz Show to their following in 17 countries each week they share. Join us next week for our Weekly Buzz and Buzz Reaction. Follow us on Facebook, Volleyball Master Coaches, Instagram, and Twitter, DB Master Coaches. All of our Weekly Buzz shows are on YouTube, and you may access these by going directly to our Instagram account. Click on the link in our bio. Enjoy listening to leaders like Christy, Ryan, and Jerritt address current issues and trends. Register for November 6th for the 2020 AVCA Virtual Convention and save $50 to get the first opportunity for small group training sessions. Career appointments. Remember, after our host today closes our Weekly Buzz today, you may stay on Facebook Live and join our Master Coaches Buzz Reaction for an opportunity to engage in our most recent talks. Now, let's go to our host, John Foreman, who will update us on his upcoming coaching conversations.
Thanks, Ruth. I noticed Brian went sideways. Is that a statement on what's happening there, Brian?
Yeah, it was how I feel about it. Tell me if I go right side up. Did I go
All
up?
right, there you go. Perfect. Anyway, Coaching Conversations, the podcast has launched. There's an intro episode that's already up. The first of the actual full-length episodes will be on Monday. That's going to feature a conversation with Mark Lebedeau and myself on how coaches can get better at coaching, increase their volleyball IQ by watching matches. Obviously, right now, that's mostly going to be in video, but in person as well. So that should be an interesting one. And I've already got 3 other ones all lined up for the weeks to follow. So that should be cool. So